how you mentioned earlier about the amount of food that we eat and how less is more for our health on every level, mentally, physically, spiritually, you know. I sometimes think about how we should have a third. And I wonder how we would actually do that when we're surrounded by food. Everything is, oh, let's eat this, let's eat more, let's, you know, get more into our systems, not less. And I wonder how our days would be if, and I don't know if any of you ladies do, but have you ever played around with having just a third and
so
stopped?
Just to comment on that, a third is actually considered the maximum you're supposed to eat. And so let me ask you, how much is a third of your stomach?
Exactly. I actually don't know. I would, so as you say, that's the maximum. If you must, you have a third.
How much is a third of your stomach? Scientifically, the size of the stomach is about 750 milliliters to 900 milliliters. So about the size of a cereal bowl is a third of your stomach. So 250 millimeters to 350 millimeters is your meal. That is the maximum you're supposed to eat. The Prophet Muhammad SAW actually said that a few morsels would suffice to keep your back straight. But if you must eat because you need to eat more, then a third. And what a friend of mine whose husband is a sheikh said to me, she said, you know, when you said 750 millimeters, that's actually the size of the zakat that you're supposed to give. That's the mud. When you're donating, it's 750 millimeters.
Oh my God, no wonder why it sounded familiar.
So and I didn't know that. I just figured it out scientifically, how big is our stomach, because our stomach expands. You can make your stomach into, like, you know, it could fit 5 kilos if you wanted it to. It could keep expanding, but its actual natural size of how much it should fit naturally and function normally is about 750 to 900 millimeters, less than a liter. Less than a bottle of water. So if you're drinking a liter of water,
I'm just looking at my water.
You've left no room for food. And
No
so
eating for you,
even
Nadine.
drinking too much water isn't good. Even drinking too much water isn't good.
It really even challenges it really even challenges the concept of water that we have then, isn't it, Iman? Because we have this, you know, concept of 7 to 8 glasses of water, whatever. I mean, you know, everybody.
That's right. I'm really interested in knowing that, because I thought drinking 8 glasses of water is necessary. Really? So what is?
So your body knows. Your body knows when it's thirsty. So here's the thing. 5 years ago, I wrote a book called The Ramadan Remedy, and what I had done is this entire research as to what should you eat and what does your body need once you break your fast. And this is based on traditional and prophetic medicine and Islamic medicine, is that once you've eaten your iftar, and try this Ramadan, just try a cereal bowl. That's all you're going to fill in your bowl. Put whatever you want in it, and try to make sure it's a mixture. Have that one cereal bowl and then don't eat anything else. Have your cup of water or your cup of herbal tea. Choose one. Don't do a cup of water, a cup of herbal tea, cup of juice, because now you filled your stomach with just liquids, and that affects your stomach acid. So just do the bowl and then do the cup of herbal tea. I prefer a cup of herbal tea because it boosts digestion. So do the bowl, do the cup of herbal tea. And you'll actually notice that towards the end of Ramadan, your stomach already resizes to that, because you can't eat more than a bowl towards the end of Ramadan. If you try to fill you have a bowl of soup and you're like, oh, I'm so full, I can't eat my meal now.
Yeah, when I reflect on that, that is actually precise. That's what ends up happening. And then I force myself to eat because I think I need to eat, because I haven't had food. I've had just soup. So I need to have solids.
Right. And so our concept of what food is we expect that we need so much more calories and so much more, that you actually need less to function efficiently and to be healthier, which is why mothers who come to me and say, my kids don't eat. And I say, if they eat 5 spoons, they've eaten. I'm like, stop forcing your kids to finish the plate. Stop forcing.
Please, can I ask you? Sorry, go on. I'll go all enthusiastic then. Please finish your sentence.
So again, if we really live by a few morsels is enough, we have to implement it with our children first, because we're the ones who create big stomachs.
That is so interesting. I'm really glad that we've touched on this, because there are some who might say, children are different.
Yeah.
You need to feed more to your children.
They're growing, they need the food.
Yes. I would love your opinion on that.
So no,
Me too.
Children are born on the fitra, and we shape their choices. When I have 5 kids, so I've seen all different types of eaters. I have some that have bigger appetites, and I have some that have smaller appetites. And how much you eat isn't a reflection of whether or not you're going to be healthy. If you eat a lot, doesn't mean you're going to be healthier, right? So I let the children choose. I make sure that they have the variety they need. So I'll make sure that my kids will have some beets. And I'll say, you have to just eat 2 bites of the beets and then eat anything else you want. Right. So long as you're introducing the variety of foods that children need for nutrition, so they get their veggies, they get carrots, they get cucumbers, so long as they have veggies, and veggies and fruits are a lot more important to children than just proteins, people who just focus on proteins and carbs. I typically will allow my kids to have like a bowl of cucumbers and carrots that's just sitting with them if they're watching TV that they can snack on. And this actually is very beneficial. So when it comes to eating their meals, if they've had 5 bites, I know they've eaten. I'm not worried about them.
Wow. I'm passing this on to my siblings, like for my nieces and nephews. I'm just thinking of them, poor things.
And people have, like, a lot of my students have come back and said that I actually have a healthier relationship with my child because we're not fighting over food, because I'm always forcing them to eat. And so now the children are allowed to say, well, what do you gravitate to? What do you feel like eating? Listen to your body as opposed to listen to your mom. So when you teach them, now, if they're always craving sugars, there might be a candida overgrowth, which is causing them to crave more sugars. But if you're giving them healthy foods and they're choosing healthy foods, like if they'll eat an egg, that's a meal. If they've had an egg and they've had a date, trust me, that's a complete meal. They don't need to have everything else with it. So it's not more. It's really about empower them to listen to their body. When are you sufficed? And not program them the opposite way, because we serve them large portions, then we expect them to finish it. And then we have these kids that are 9 and 10 years old that are now diabetic and obese. And then, it's part of our doing. It's part of what we're exposing them to and feeding them. So allow the child to really be connected to their stomach and what their body is telling them. My son will tell me, bananas don't make me feel good, so I will not force him to eat bananas. And if you teach them at a young age to listen, how do you feel when you drink this? How do you feel when you eat this? Then they'll tell you.
I love that.
Do you feel like, though, mothers will find that burdensome because then they're providing so many alternatives? Because I'm thinking for mothers or people who are the chef in the house, and providing those alternatives to the different children, depending on how many children you have or how many people you're feeding. Is it feasible? Like, can that be done still? Like, is there a way? Like, how do you do that when you're catering to the different diets of the children, if you're allowing them to choose? Because typically, if I'm thinking of our household, we're cooking this meal and everyone's eating it. You don't want to eat it? Go figure it out yourselves.
So it's not about cooking separate meals. I'll give you an example. Sometimes I have a 2-year-old who's turning almost 3. There are days where I'll make pasta and meat sauce for the kids, and she doesn't want it. She just wants the pasta, and she'll just eat the pasta without the meat sauce, and then she'll have 2 or 3 dates. For me, she's eaten. She's had her carbs. She's had her dates. Dates are a complete meal on their own. Dates are a complete meal. So long as your children eat things like dates, like if they're only eating empty carbs and empty foods, like processed stuff, they're not eating healthy. But if they're eating fruits and vegetables and they have an egg, a couple of times a week, they're getting their nutrients. They're not deprived. They're not malnourished. And kids have different metabolisms as well. I mean, my boys are considered underweight because they're caloric body types. They have a very fast metabolism. They can't put on any fat. You're right. So I'm okay with it. I understand it. The doctor's like, oh, well, they're a little bit underweight. I'm like, well, that's okay for their body type. That's perfectly fine. I know what they eat is sufficient. They're not lethargic, and you can tell as to whether or not someone is thriving. If they're lethargic, if they have brain fog, if they can't focus, if they are sleepy, if they're not sleeping well at night, there's signs as to whether or not your child is not doing well with their food. And I think people have, again, traditional medicine was all about listening to your body and listening and being in tune and recognizing what's working, what's not, and teaching that to the children, and children growing up and being able to have that right now, everything is all about one size fits all. Everyone should do keto. Everyone should do intermittent fasting. Everyone should have morning smoothies. I remember my naturopath told me, have a smoothie in the morning, frozen fruits, this, that. I did it. I felt sick. I felt sick because I have a sluggish metabolism. And first thing in the morning to put in something cold into my digestive system, slow down my digestion all day, I couldn't do it. I thought, this might work for someone else, but it doesn't work for me.
Yes,
which is why we need to listen to our bodies.
Yeah, and I think that's why I started exploring when I had studied temperaments and just as personality wise, but then I found out food is your temperament affects the food that you have. And then I started digging deeper into that. So I found that very interesting and really resonated with my own experiences based on the foods that I've tried and how I grew up and what type of foods. The way that you described it, that's exactly how I grew up. My parents never used to give us too many things, but we felt full. I was probably considered underweight, but I was active. I functioned fine. I didn't have all those symptoms. So I just, subhanAllah, that from my own experiences, I concur. Like, it works.
It does. We're all different. And the thing is, when I teach the temperaments, I actually separate the personality from the body types. So personality is one temperament. There's many different sciences to figure out personalities, but I really just focus on metabolism, fat storage, muscle building. That's what your temperament is. Islamic medicine, that's how you know how food is going to respond to you. And every food has a temperament. So pomegranates are cooling and drying. So it's going to slow down, it's going to cool things off. Whereas, milk is cold and damp, and that's going to dampen your system, which is why people are feeling better with the dairy-free, gluten-free, because they're cold, damp foods, but they're still important foods if you do them properly and in the right proportions. It's just, we tend to overdo everything in modern nutrition. We tend to overdo everything. Everyone's on every one avocado a day, which isn't necessarily good for you either, right? So, we do an all or nothing type.
Yeah, and we don't listen to our body, and we don't listen to our bodies as well. I find that that's so important.